So you're ready to take over the world and you want to get started in SEO, but what do you do? How do you start? It starts with an SEO audit, and here's how you do one. So how do you do an SEO audit? Well, let's break it down what an SEO audit encompasses. So for me, it's three things, which are the three things that are the core pillars of SEO. These are the fundamentals that over the 17 years that I've run an SEO agency that we've stuck to. And what's great about focusing on these three core pillars, then applying them to your SEO audits, is you don't have to get distracted by shiny objects. And I think that has a lot to do with the success of my agency over the years, is a lot of other people may have identified a way to cut a corner in SEO and might have temporarily got a little bit of gains a little bit quicker, but at what expense, right? Is it sustainable? And in my experience, if you stick to these three core fundamentals and apply them in your audits, it creates a sustainable SEO strategy. So when we look at SEO, it's really these three things. The first is your site structure, which is how good or bad was it built? And it's generally simple things like, is it mobile friendly? Does it load quickly? Does it have clear call to action and navigation? Two is content. You can only show up on search engines for what search engines can read. Do you have unique value added content? And three is external credibility. Most people will summarize that under the umbrella of backlinks, but it can also include citations and unlinked mentions. And so when you look at those three core pillars, and that's really what you want to use as your foundation for success, then that should be the foundation of your SEO audits. There's a handful of tools that I like to use, and I'll include some links here in the video. The first one I like to use for the site structure is Website Auditor. It's a program that's part of a greater platform called SEO Power Suite. And what's cool about it is you can run the audit on demand. And so there are some tools that I'll use on demand and some that I'll use as reoccurring audits. So let me kind of break that down a little bit. When you do an audit with these tools like Website Auditor, it'll look for things like broken pages, dead links, broken images, unoptimized titles, unoptimized metas, missing titles and meta, things like that, redirects, redirect chains. A really simple way to look at why it's important to audit your site structure is SEO is effectively who makes Google look good. And so what do I mean by that? Google's less likely to send a visitor to your website if they're going to run into dead pages, broken links, redirects, and poor user experience. And so when you fix those things, then Google's more likely to go, yeah, that's a good site that I can send somebody to, because otherwise Google doesn't want to send a visitor to your website and then the customers hit these dead ends and these redirects and these delays and these issues, because then Google looks bad for recommending it. When we talk about these audit softwares, I primarily use Website Auditor, and then there's other great ones, like Ahrefs. A lot of people know Ahrefs because of its backlink tools, but it has a Website Auditor in it as well. Here's the difference in why I use Website Auditor more consistently than Ahrefs, just for the audit component, is when you run an audit in Ahrefs, you have to wait. What's cool is you can schedule it for reoccurring audits, but you can't run it on demand as quickly as you can with Website Auditor. So if I have a new lead or if a client wants a quick update on their site structure, I'll go pull an audit from Website Auditor. But for my team, for our reoccurring safety net checks and audits, we'll run them through Ahrefs, because by the time it comes up in queue, report's already done and we don't have to tell anybody to go run the audit. So Website Auditor is a great tool for on-demand to really dial in very specific issues on your website to optimize the structure. All right, so now after we've audited the website structure, we move on to auditing your content. And there's two tools that I use. One is called Copyscape and one is called Siteliner, and they're actually sister sites. The difference between the two is Copyscape will compare your content against other websites, external sources of content. So did you have SEO in the past and maybe you weren't aware that your SEO was kind of scraping content from somebody else and repurposing it? Or maybe you find out somebody's stealing content from your website. Now, Siteliner compares your website against itself. Way back in the day, prior to 2012, a lot of people used to focus on mass producing content. The theory, and actually wasn't even a theory, it unfortunately did work back in the day, but Google caught up. What it was is if you had a piece of content across 100 pages on your website, therefore your website is more authoritative because you talk about the thing more, right? Except for its low quality content. And so Siteliner will help you identify content that's thin or duplicate or too similarly repurposed that you end up creating duplicate content internally. So there you go. Now you have your site structure audited, which is the foundation of the latter two pillars of SEO, your content and your external credibility. Now I'll interject a quick comment. Most of your visibility on SEO is going to come from those two latter pillars, which are going to be content and credibility. But if you don't have a solid structure, it dilutes the value of everything else. And so anytime we launch a new account, we actually go heavy into the site structure first. Okay, so your structure is dialed in. Now you have your content audited. So how do you audit your backlinks? Well, before you add new content, you want to clean it up. Just like before you add new backlinks, you want to clean up your portfolio too. So we do what's called a link detox. Ahrefs is a great tool. In it, you can export your backlinks and kind of cruise through them, and they have some metrics on how you can look at the domain authority or the domain rating. Now, let me add a comment on that as well. DA and DR and inlink and all these metrics, Google does not care about. Let's walk through where these were birthed from. Google used to have a metric called PageRank or PR, and it would be a metric of 0 to 10. The higher the number, the more authoritative your website. So back in the day, it was like Facebook was a 10 and Wikipedia was a 10, and I remember Twitter was a 9. I thought that was funny that they just came in just short. But what happened is Google said, hey, you guys are abusing these. You're just like going after these high PR websites. So we're not going to update this metric as often. And then nobody chilled out. And so Google said, fine, we're going to take it in-house. We still use it, but you can't see it anymore. So then all the SEO says, well, crap, now I don't know what to spam anymore. I don't know what to target. And so all these softwares raised their hand and said, we can help you. We have this DA metric and this DR metric. Now, that's not to say that it doesn't imply a more credible website, but it's certainly not a literal metric that Google pays attention to. And so a lot of these tools, you can use that to kind of start down the path of what links you want to scrub, which ones are high quality, which ones are low quality. But another great tool also within the SEO Power Suite is Spyglass. So if you pick up Website Auditor, also pick up SEO Spyglass from Link Assistant from the Power Suite, because what's cool is Spyglass will do the same things. It's similar pros and cons as we mentioned earlier with Website Auditor and Ahrefs versus Spyglass and Ahrefs, is that within Ahrefs, you can pull information on demand or schedule it. With Spyglass, you can run it on demand as well, and then you can export the data, and it has different filters and things like that. So the best way to fully audit your backlink portfolio is to get a well-rounded perspective from multiple sources. A lot of times we'll pull backlinks from Ahrefs, and it might say there's 10,000 links from 3,000 domains, and then Spyglass might say there's 20,000 links from 9,000 domains. And so how can there be such a big discrepancy across the quantities of backlinks? Well, think about it. There's billions and billions and billions of pages on the internet, so it's pretty likely to miss a handful of links. So what I like to do is export data from as many resources as possible, and those are two go-tos, Ahrefs and Spyglass. And then what you want to do is go through them, and you can use the kind of metrics that they nudge you or encourage you to kind of look at about the ranking, but I wouldn't say those are written in stone. Plenty of times I've seen really great websites marked as spammy, and I've seen spammy websites marked as usable websites. And so we actually go through and do a manual audit on all these. The first thing that we do is look for directories. All directories are thrown in the trash. Then ultimately what you're looking for is real websites. Does it look like a PBN, a private blog network? So a lot of SEOs will use these PBNs to mass produce links across a variety of websites. And what they do is they come up with these websites and buy different domains and host them through different hosts. And so the websites look real. But what happens is Google can identify a pattern in the themes and the templates and the tracking code and the analytics and the user IDs. And as soon as a footprint is detected in these PBNs, then everybody that uses them becomes guilty by association and gets penalized. And so what you're looking for is a great sign of PBNs is no contact information. So the website might look real, but you can tell something is off. Look for a contact page or an About Us page. If there is none, it's a good probability it's PBN. But even if there is a contact page, if there's no information on it and it's just a contact form, that's a real obvious characteristic also of a PBN. So use your instincts, right? Does the website actually solve a problem, or is it just a barrage of miscellaneous content? That's another great sign. Are you scanning through the content and you see something about teeth whiteners and then weight loss and then solar panels? There's no consistency in those topics other than those are consistently types of websites that spam for SEO, right? So look for these patterns and trust your instincts. So this is how you do an SEO audit. It's your 3 core pillars of SEO. You want to focus on your website structure and your page speed. Oh, page speed, gtmetrics.com. GTmetrix is a great tool to help you identify very granularly what is bottlenecking your website. The benchmark of a successful website is if it loads in 3 seconds or less. That's not a home run. That's the baseline. You want your website to be fully loaded in 3 seconds or less. So there we go. Website Auditor and GTmetrix for your structure, Copyscape and Siteliner for your content, and then Ahrefs and Spyglass for link detoxing your backlink portfolio.